And we're back. David, are you all done moving your friend or whatever it is?
Yes, pretty quick. Didn't take a lot of time, so we are back in business.
Awesome. Great. So the next order of business for you podcast listeners at home, you probably experienced no hiccup. For our YouTube viewers, I apologize for this weirdness. David's the worst host ever.
Stop watching YouTube. Go listen to the polished, beautiful product that we lovingly edit later.
We get a few people, man. I get quite a few people. Well, not quite a few, but a decent amount of people. Okay. So the second order of business was this guy who killed 3 people and then cited video game addiction. So the article headline is this: Man convicted of killing 3 cites addiction to video games.
Oh, well, it's an open and shut case. Move on. Next topic.
Next topic. Okay, so this guy's name's Adam Dees, Dees, like Dees nuts.
A lot of people did die though.
Yeah. These nuts though. No, he went. Here's the details of the case. This guy comes in and he is. Oh gosh, how should I put this? I'll put this the way the media portrayed it first. This guy plays a bunch of violent video games, and then he decides, I'm gonna do this, and he finds a house on Google Maps that's nice and secluded, looks rich, and so he goes and robs it. No, sorry, didn't even say robs. He goes and he murders the 3 people, and then he says, it made it easier because I played violent video games. That's the message almost all of them are putting across. I went and read every article that I could find on this. It's about 10. And it's all pretty much variations of that, minus a couple that were actually much more honest, or at least more thorough in their journalistic integrity. As it turns out, this guy was depressed and suicidal for some time, and he'd been living alone. His neighbors had said, he doesn't do much. He doesn't come and go. He's got a couple friends, but that's about it. Most of them are his computer gaming friends. Played a lot of first-person shooters, and then one day he says he's depressed and suicidal, and before he kills himself, he's like, well, before I do that, though, I want to see what it's like to rob a house. Finds a house by looking at Google Maps. It's nice and secluded. And he buys then the night before, he buys a ski mask, baseball bat, and zip ties. And he goes to someone's house. It's a house of a 90-year-old man and the whelp, and 80-something-year-old woman, and then their son lived with them that was 52, and they were like kind of billionaires or millionaires. He tries to rob the house. They don't do what he tells them to, and so he kills them, hits them with a baseball bat a bunch, shoots them in the head, and one of them he severs their spine with a knife. Then he leaves. When questioned later, so he gets caught, obviously, because the guy, he wasn't trying to hide anything. He brought some of the trash back with him. He brought the murder weapons back with him, put them in his house. He stole the credit cards and tried to buy things with them. He sold the rings he found at the local convenience store. He bought the murder weapon, but the night before, with a ski mask. Like, the guy got caught, obviously. So those are the details of the case. And when they asked about it, they said, how is it that you knew how did you know what you were doing? And then he said, well, I mean, I play violent video games. I play first-person shooters, so it helped whenever I had to shoot him in the head. And then people were like, oh, and they meant emotionally. He meant like methodically.
Yeah, he meant like he's been practicing his headshots.
Yeah, exactly. But they keep saying it's easier because you play violent video games. I was like, well, tactics, yes, you do learn. I went to basic training, and when I was coming across a window, and you probably know this too, you're not even a huge FPSer. Let's say you're hugging a wall, right? And you're a fire team leader, so you're out in front, or I was the point man, I wasn't the leader, but I was out in front, and there's a window coming up on your left as you're walking across the wall. What do you do to the window?
You put your back against the wall, and you kind of have to peer through the window without exposing your entire head, see what's in there.
Yeah. And then we do what in the military we call pieing it off, right? So like you hug the wall, you look in, and then you go like you kind of circle, you make a pie, like a half of a pie all the way around, so you can see the interior without exposing yourself.
Right.
And I did that, and the sergeant on the one of the cadre, one of the sergeants was like, "Hey, how'd you know how to do that?" And I was like, "Well, video games, drill sergeant." And then everyone laughed. He thought I was kidding, so he smoked me. But I was serious. Methodically, yeah, I knew how to do that because you know how to not get shot. But anyway, I'm upset by this one because this guy was depressed, and he's bipolar, by the way. He's being treated right now in prison. He got 3 life sentences, so he's going nowhere. But yeah, he's being treated. So in a state of severe depression and then possibly mania afterwards, he goes and murders these people. he had plans anyway. Like he was just like, oh, I thought maybe I'd rob another place afterwards if it didn't work out. But you purchased the murder weapon the night before with a ski mask, and you brought the murder weapon back with you and just left it in your house. And then you bought things with the credit cards and you sold the items there at a pawn shop, like with their names on it. He's like the whelps, and they had just been murdered. It's all over the news. Like the guy was not, there's something going on there. And that's what I suggest is one or two things: mental retardation. It could be intellectual disability, which it doesn't appear that he is, or two, mania. That's the kind of things you do in a manic state, which whenever I saw bipolar, I was like, well, there you go. You do these like self-destructive behaviors and you just with no thought of consequence or recompense.
Right.
So whenever I hypothesized that as one of the two possible or three possible outcomes, whenever I saw bipolar, I was like, well, there you go. Depression and then mania, especially when you swing from depression up to mania. That's the most dangerous time. That's when people are suicidal the most.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the answer to that. I hope that. Did you have any insights on that besides that?
No, I mean, people don't kill people when they're in a good mental state, and video games don't alter you into a state of insanity. So it seemed like there had to be something more going on there than playing violent video games made it easier to kill those people. Because if you count up my body count in video game history since I started playing violent video games, I'm up there with Hitler. Like I've killed a lot of things.
Yeah.
I'm almost up there with Old Testament God. Like I've just been wiping out all life for years on these video games. And yet I don't think it would be very easy at all to murder somebody. Even someone that had a gun pulled on me, I'd feel like very hesitant to pull a trigger on him. Like I'd shoot him in the knee or something. I feel very sick just at the thought of actually taking a real human life.
Yeah,
So,
that's
with
weird.
that little bit of anecdotal evidence, but you see that a lot, right? You don't see a lot of crime. It goes back to the Phantom Youth violence, right? Like
Yeah.
we see violent crime has been drastically falling as video games have been increasing. We would predict the opposite if video games made you more likely to kill people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I have a number of hypotheses whenever I see things like this. It's one, the person was not mentally healthy. But that one's pretty easy, right?
right.
Yeah, so they're at some point in their life where they're willing to do something crazy. Two, there's some bad reporting involved here. And then three, I predict that there's some kind of like suicidality or depression that occurs beforehand. And then a lot of these people, if they're going to go out, they go out in a tremendous fashion. You know, tremendous, not like good, but I mean like a huge spectacle. And then they take other people's lives. And so, yeah, and that's exactly what happens in all of these cases. If you look for the things that we know scientifically happen before someone takes someone's life like this, you're either going to see psychopathy, which is, antisocial personality disorder, or you're going to see someone who is in the danger. Not all mentally ill people are dangerous, but there are certain ones that are dangerous in certain periods. And one of those is definitely bipolar. If you're bipolar mixed with all the bad social conditions he was, which is, he's all alone, he's depressed, he's just lying around, he's got nothing to live for. And then he goes to take his life, but he's like, wait, I'm gonna do something crazy first. That's exactly what you'd expect to see. And I always find it whenever I look into these things. So I just get frustrated with the media a little bit by, stirring the pot. It's just this phantom violence bullshit. Oh, well. But anyway, I hope that answers the question. I think, who was it that answered that? I think it was on the Facebook page. It was, dang, I lost it. Got rid of it. It sucks. I apologize.
Yeah, it was, I don't know either. It's gone. It's gone.
It just left.
We'll do it live.
We'll do it. Fuck it. We'll do it live. Here it is. It was Paul. Paul Borowski. He contributes quite a bit to the page, so that's fun. Anyway, so next up, one of the other things was, what was it? Oh, yes, the Classcraft. So have you heard of this thing?
Yeah, I've actually been messing around with it today, just seeing how it worked. Pretty interesting. So the premise is it's a video game that your class, your teacher, your class will play this game as they're learning. So it's going on in the background while they're doing class stuff. And it's using remember the behaviorism episode we did for World of Warcraft?
Yeah.
It's using a lot of those things, but to promote classroom behavior, like collaboration, answering questions, stuff like that.
Hmm.
So
how does it work?
So what they do is the students log in, and they choose like warrior, cleric, or wizard, or rogue. There's like 4 classes, I think. And then the premise is like they've got these resources. They've got hit points, and you lose hit points when you do a bad behavior. Like if they arrive late to class, it's minus 10 hit points. If they talk while you're talking, minus 5 hit points. If they, just different, you can customize it. So things you want to discourage in your classroom, they lose hit points for it. And when they go down, it puts a debuff on their party. So there's parties of 4. All the students are in teams of 4, and so it messes up their friends when they lose all their hit points.
Good.
Good. But they also get experience points. And you get experience points by answering a question, or by being like proactive in class, or by taking good notes, or like finding a mistake in the class notes, or helping another student with their homework. You get like 100 experience for that. So they can level up by earning experience points. And with the experience points, they can buy skills. And the skills are skills like if you're a warrior, you might learn hunting, and hunting allows you to eat food in the class. Or you might learn counterattack, and counterattack will allow you to get 1 hint on a test. Like if you're stuck on a problem, like you can use your counterattack to get the teacher to give you a hint. So there's different rewards they can earn by leveling up and getting skills, and they level up by doing the things you want them to do in the classroom. And then it just charts it on the computer, and they can follow along on their smartphones if they have any, or they can just check it when they get home that night.
Huh, so the punishment system is based on HP, and the reward system is based on XP?
Right.
So how do you get HP back?
I don't know. I've just gone through
That's
the beginner tutorial, but yeah, they get to design their characters. They get to look, like customize what they look like, and then you as a teacher will assign them parties. So like you just group them up in teams that you think would be productive depending on their personalities and behavior issues you might foresee. But supposedly it's supposed to help them get completely more involved in the class, like get more into it.
Yeah, well, I like that. I was going to suggest, I'm glad they did this, is grouping people, whether it's the full class or these small little cadres. I think I'd do bigger than 4, but because then whenever you get your peers incentivizing you to do things. Because when the teacher over time, if you're like, oh, you guys you're talking, Mr. Jeremiah, the cleric or whatever, that's minus 10 HP. Over time, I'm going to be like, fuck it. I don't care about this anyway. If you start losing a game, a lot of people just quit. Like if you're running a marathon and everyone passes you, after a while, you're just like, you just kind of slow down a little bit.
Right.
So, I would talk about player engagement, but it sounds like they're already doing that. If you can get your peers, if all your peers in the class are like, dude, come on, and you're like, I don't want to. And they're like, come on, man, it's awesome. Look at this warrior. And if they could like buy you equipment or somehow get you back in the race somehow, if they banded together. And then that would cause you, most likely, I think, would cause you to engage with the content as well. I think that's good.
Yeah, they've also got gold pieces that they can use. You can use them as a secondary incentive the kids can buy pets, just like customize their avatars, get like a little pet cat or something, or a little flying dragon that flies around them. So, and then there's like an analytics thing where you actually get to get detailed reports about what they're doing, and it connects to their grade book. So you can kind of give points based on their grades if you want to. Like you got an A on a test, so you get like 100 points, experience points. So yeah, I don't know if I'm completely sold on trying it, but it's an interesting premise. I'd like to hear more, testimonials that aren't from the website, like people who are actually using it to see how it works.
Yeah. Well, I'll give you the feedback I get as a behaviorist a lot. Well, why would we reward them for doing something they should be doing anyway?
Yeah. That's a good question. Here's why. Because it'll make them do it.
Yeah, exactly. And we all do things for certain reasons. If this is what I tell parents, or what I tell anyone who's looking to have any influence over someone else. I'm like, you will never find this. You will never find a child or an animal or a person, but let's keep it simple, who constantly like goes, hey, I want that chocolate cake, reaches forward and they hit their hand on the glass and go, oh, hey, I want that chocolate cake. They hit their hand on the glass. Oh. Hey, I want that chocolate cake. Hit their hand on glass. Oh. Hey, I want that chocolate cake. It just doesn't happen. Like you don't do that over and over. Over time, you stop because it doesn't work. And so that's your job, is to be the immovable object. But whether it's as the parent or the behaviorist, you just say, these are the consequences every time. And then, and they do it, not necessarily even punishment. You can ignore things. Like, that's something I might look into the system, because whenever we do behavior or token economies in classrooms, which is probably where I got this idea, because a lot of times they'll buy behavioral psychologists or just psychologists, and will be consultants to like a DeSoto County, for example. We have to do that here. A couple, we don't do the Lafayette County, but we do a couple counties where, they have us come in and set up a token economy to improve their kids' behavior. And it's cheap to them. It's cost them very little. It's like $8,000 a year or something like that. But whereas like, to have the position, and then you get a psychologist or a psychologist in training on staff at all times, which is pretty nice. But the token economy probably got the idea from there. But one thing I usually say is, don't try not to punish at all. And it sounds crazy, and I know it's an advanced tactic, but try not to. So I wouldn't even take away HP. I would do like, clever behaviors can incentivize these things. So whatever the behavior is that you're having trouble with, whether it's like homework compliance, or whether it's classroom engagement, note taking, whatever it is, you determine the interval at the schedule, the reinforcement schedule you need to bring about that behavior and maintain it, and then you implement it. So we talked about that a couple episodes ago. I talked about it in the Warcraft episode back in the day, but I would improve it through systems like that. But pretty cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like you put up on a projector, and you can like bring up characters, and like, boom, here's experience points for you. Thanks for answering that question. And all the kids will see that character's experience bar fill up in real time. That's
cool, and especially the immediacy. You want an immediacy of some sort of simple reward immediately, and then larger rewards over time. But
right, especially for adolescents, because they have a really hard time, without the prefrontal cortex all the way developed, they have a really hard time valuing future rewards, even though study so you'll do well on the final. Like, that's not very motivating to them. But good job answering that question. Have some experience points immediately. Like, they can understand that.
Yeah, and over time you can lean that out. Even a rat or even a roach can understand that there's long-term effects for things, and then they'll persist to get a long-term effect. So like the idea that's necessarily something that comes with maturity isn't necessarily true. It's just the ability to abstract it to other situations. So you may have learned that, like, if I sit in my chair long enough, I'm going to get a chocolate chip. If I sit here quietly with my hands folded in my lap, we can do that with 1-year-olds. I can make a 1-year-old stand on his head if I want to, if it's through successive approximations. But for that 1-year-old to abstract that to another situation of like a reward that they're going to get over time, that's very difficult to do, because that's abstraction, and that takes the prefrontal cortex. But yeah, I like the system, and I like the idea that people are using behaviorism instead of shoulding all over their people. Like, he should be not minding. He should be listening. He should be taking notes. Yep, he should. He's not, though. He's having a hard time.
Yeah, I like the idea of it looks like you can heal your classmates too. So like, if someone in your group is like messed up and come in late, like you can do other things to like heal him before he falls in battle. So it looks like it encourages like the positive behavior of teamwork. And I can see this like being a useful just life skill. Like, when you're outside of high school and you're in your career, you're probably going to be working in teams, and you're probably going to be using technology, and there's probably going to be a lot of these same principles at play. So I can see that being a useful skill beyond like French grammar or physics or whatever you're teaching.
Oh, that's awesome, actually. Yeah, because then that means one of your classmates invested in you.
Right.
So even it could be you. Yeah, I don't like punishment, but if you had to do it, that's a clever way to do it, because then not only are you going to get the peer influence, but you're also going to get a specific peer who's put time into you, being like, "Hey, dude, come on, you got to do this." And over time, he probably will conform. That's cool.
Yeah, you can create random quests like teacher appreciation, or do something nice for one of your teachers today, and just random just things to keep it varied, like the objectives for the day.
That's smart, and tying it into functional reinforcers is really important. So I like the fact that you can get a hint on a test that incentivizes the people who aren't already do-gooders to try to achieve something in this program. Because you're going to get your do-gooders. Like me, I'd probably be like, yay, and I'd play all the games and do all the quests because I like, being on the good side of my teacher. But there's a lot of kids who don't. So I think that's cool.
It's I don't know. It's interesting in that it seems to be hitting all the buttons that kids would enjoy, and yet I've got some kind of, as an educator, some kind of pushback against it. Like, it just feels so, maybe it's just the newness of it, like the strangeness of it. Like, when you think about it, it's weird that we're still teaching children the way we did 100 years ago, essentially. Like, we have PowerPoints now, but it's us in front of a room talking. And we're always trying to change it up and like come up with more innovative or more engaging ways to keep them involved. And then when something like this comes around, there's this immediate like innate pushback that I'm feeling like, I don't know, this is so weird. I don't know if I want to even try it.
Yeah, I understand that. But this is based off some sound psychology, so I think I give it a shot. Although I don't know how much it costs, but
there's a free version. It just allows for basic gameplay. Then there's a freemium option that gives you more options for customizing. It comes with an iOS app and the ability for players to earn gold coins that they can use to customize their avatars and earn experience points. And then there's the premium edition, which is $40 per class for a year. And it includes the ability for the teacher to award coins to players. So there's different ways to buy into it, which is a smart way to go about it. So it's basically the if you can get more people to sign in, it's cheaper. So they come with more analytics, ways to contact like parents, like with emails and boss battles and just all kinds of stuff. In-class quests, instant polling. So I guess it just depends on how much you want to spend. Okay.
Well, cool though. I like it. It's basically a token economy for older kids, and token economies work for them too. But they work. They're typically used with children and that sort of thing. So that's good. Cool. Classcraft. All right. Well, thanks for bringing that to our attention. I think we mentioned it on like the news section earlier, like on one of our early episodes. But
yeah, when it was just first being developed, but it looks like it's done.
Yeah. Shutting down some of these tabs. It looks like our next item. Let me see, what time is it? Make sure we got time for this. I think we're still good. Yeah, our next item was the people, like these developers who were making violent games, were suffering some difficulties in like emotionally and behaviorally. It was pretty interesting. Like there was a guy, that Halo artist in particular, that was highlighted in this article. His name is Vic DeLeon, or DeLeon. Not sure if he anglicized that or not, or whatever. But yeah, he was talking about how like he would like look at like pictures of like, one of them was like he looked inside of a colonoscopy videos to make some of the Halo levels. There's a level in particular that's like you're inside of I think it's the Flood. Yeah, the flood-infested Cortana level from Halo 3, and it looks like a butthole, or it looks like a colon that you're going into, with growth on the outside. And so, this guy said he would spend a lot of time like looking at these horrible pictures for inspiration and for that kind of thing, and over time it started to kind of affect them. And because for two reasons. One, because direct observation of these things, had a little bit of a disturbing effect on him. Two, because he said that for 8 months he was working on that level. So for 8 months, people had to step real careful around me. So it had a social impact as well.
Right, because he was always looking at buttholes.
Yeah, gross, gory, gruesome stuff.
So is this similar to when you have these actors who get so immersed in their roles that they become depressed, or like the Heath Ledger effect coming into play?
Yeah, that method acting kind of getting into. I don't know. This part's not real clear, like psychologically. So I think, first of all, that's interesting that people are kind of martyring themselves for a video game, for productive value. I mean, you get people like Jared Leto, who he played a transgender guy in Dallas Buyers Club with Matthew McConaughey, which he won an Academy Award for that. Matthew McConaughey, what? How did he win an award for acting? But he did, because he went to method acting too. And then same thing now, he's playing the Joker. Jared Leto's playing the Joker. He's currently doing the role of it, and he's totally in character. He won't break it. He's even sending gifts as the Joker to the other cast members, like weird gifts. Like he sent bullets to Will Smith, and it was like, here, dead shot, and some weird cryptic messages. He sent like a dead rat to Harley Quinn. It's weird, man. Like he's really into it. But I don't know. It's not real clear. You get these people too who do trauma, like trauma psychology or therapy for trauma victims. And if you get one of these large scale things like an earthquake, or there was a Hurricane Katrina, for example, tons of dead people, a lot of disrupted families. And so some people from the University of Mississippi went down there, the graduate students and some of the psychologists, and try to help out with that. This grief, kind of real quick grief counseling, like, it's gonna be okay, not right. That, but you get the idea. Just like tell me what you're thinking, what's going on. And then these people got like visibly upset. The therapists, they were like, oh man, this is so rough, so rough, and they get a little depressed. They'd have these crying spells, difficulty sleeping. It's almost like, a little bit of that depression like was sifting off on them. So I think it's interesting. This it's called what is it? Affective contagion, I believe is what it's called. So the contagiousness of a feeling, and it's something that happens with humans. It's interesting, especially with this. It's working with these terrible things.
There might just be something about just the workload game developers are under. Like, do you remember we covered Masahiro Sakurai's Smash Brothers? He's the developer of Smash Brothers and the creator of it, and he put everything into it. And he just described like how drained he felt, like how just he didn't have any joy left in his life anymore after it was finished, because he just worked so hard on it, and weekends and holidays. Like, they really push these developers to the limit, especially in Japanese like corporate culture.
Yeah. There's another interesting point from this article. So they also interviewed Stephen Bowler from Mortal Kombat. Mortal Kombat's finishes, right?
Yeah.
The fatalities. This guy said. So I'll give you a quote here. He says, a lot of the time while we're working on these things, there's this degree of separation, he tells me. As a Mortal Kombat animator, he mostly found himself working with the actual character model of an attacker and just a blank, featureless male or female model. Quote, we called it naked guy, unquote, in place of the victim. So they didn't even want to have, like, just while they were coding it, they didn't want the blood and gore and broken bones. So they'd actually just make it this, like, featureless, human-like model, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which gives you kind of a degree of separation. It's interesting, that it actually can cause some discomfort there. It's part of those mirror neurons that we talk about.
So how does this affect game developers, but violent video games aren't affecting violent behaviors? Are these two separate things?
I feel like you're softballing that question. Yes. Yes. What am I, a presidential candidate? Oh, it's topical.
So if you feel bad from seeing people die, shouldn't you be murdering everybody?
Yeah, that's basically it. No, I mean, it's just like anything else. Like whenever you see, oh God, like if you see a car wreck, why does traffic slow down? It's because people are rubbernecking. They're watching as they go by. You don't want to see it, but you do, because we've got two things driving us, right? Like imagine we're like primates on the savannah. You have to see the threat, but you don't want to see the threat, right?
Your empathy and your danger avoidance are at war with each other for a minute.
Exactly. You actively, it's like and it's a similar sort of thing. Like, it's better to know than not to know. It's like when somebody goes, oh, it smells awful, smell this. And people do. I'm like, what are you doing? Don't smell that. That's just your primal brain trying to get you to act like an idiot for a second. But yeah, I think that's what's going on. Like, honestly, we don't know a whole lot about this. There's been some looking at this for trauma research in general. It's called vicarious traumatization. And it's a hotly debated thing. There's a lot of people, like myself included, are very skeptical of, giving it any sort of, press, because it's a little ridiculous, it's a little overblown. But with this, I think it's very interesting how these people are how they found ways to safeguard themselves from having these working with a naked model, basically, where you're just having to break the arm to clean off with no blood, no insides. It just looks like a Ken doll. That's I don't know, it's interesting. It shows a level of avoidance, meaning that the actual experience is aversive.
Huh.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I do the same thing. Like, whenever I watch gory movies, right? Like, I got kind of into those from zombie films.
Uh-huh.
You have to disconnect yourself, and I don't think my wife is able to do this, but you have to disconnect yourself from what's going on. Like this guy took a chainsaw, and it's actually an ICP video. Have you heard ICP, the Night of the Chainsaw?
No, I have not.
It's weird, but whatever. I used to be a huge ICP fan when I was a kid, so I still enjoy. Oh yeah, like I never wore that. Well, I did wear the makeup one time. Actually, that was just to scare Tom, but
yeah, that was a completely different thing.
Yeah, it wasn't to celebrate being a juggalo, and I never called myself a juggalo, but whatever, it doesn't matter. The point is I like their music and I like what they stood for, but now they put out this video. You can watch it. It's called Night of the Chainsaw, and this guy just takes the chainsaw and just shoves it through people's heads. Like, one he puts in this guy's head, and this green blood shoots out, and the guy's going, and you have to like abstract it and go, oh, that's hilarious, because I'm laughing because I know how that work goes. Remember Tim made that video of being a killer. You and Tim made that. and like he reached down, he like squeezed
Oh,
someone's
yeah.
head.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it exploded. It was just pasta sauce, but blood goes all over his face. It's when you know what's going on behind the scenes, it's actually hilarious. But if you take it at face value, literally here, because you can chainsaw it in the face, it's very disturbing. But
Yeah, even when I get involved, when I get immersed in a zombie movie, like for some reason I'm okay with violence against zombies. I don't mind seeing them explode. It doesn't bother me at all. It's just like, oh, cool special effects. Zombies aren't real, and I'm okay with zombies eating people. Like again, it's not real. I'm fine. But whenever it's like the human versus human element of zombie movies, like in 28 Days Later, when Cillian Murphy goes all like Predator on the other army guys, and he's just like digging his thumbs in that guy's eyes, I can't even look at that.
Well, that's what. But the reason why is because there's no premise that the zombie was a person, right? And we do get a little bit of pause whenever we see a person turn immediately, and then they do something gruesome to them, like cut their arms off and hack their head. Because there was no pretense that a regular zombie was ever a person. Like, we're able to divorce that, right? And my wife cannot. She keeps saying, that's a person, that's a person. I was like, no, you can't think of it like that. That's just
that's
a
body, it's a corpse.
Yeah, but if you do see someone turn, then you're like, oh God, that's horrible. I don't want to see that kind of violence. So there really is a level of disconnect there in those games and movies as well. So, but it's interesting. I really enjoyed reading this article. I had to skim it, to be honest, because of time. But yeah, it's just interesting. People and like new, like unexplored ideas like this, like developing a special effects, like with the zombie, I enjoy looking at zombie special effects. They look gross, but I'm actually, it's more like looking at cosplay for me. I'm like, whoa, that's so well done. That guy looks gross,
Right.
It's not anything like being real. But if it was a real person, I can't. In the Army, we did something called Combat Lifesaver, CLS class, and you have to see pictures of actual, like, soldiers with their jaw blown off, and just their tongue. And I mean, like, I couldn't do it. I literally was going like putting my hands like little waffle fries over my eyes because they're like, you have to watch this. You have to watch the soldiers. And I was like, I just can't do it. So bad. It was horrible. But in a zombie movie, I'm like, oh, look at that makeup. It's so good. How'd they even make it look like that? Where's his jaw? That's crazy. So yeah, it's people are panicking about these video games and movies before that, the zombie movies, and it's not the same.
Yeah.
But thanks for the link in that article. It was really interesting to skim. Unfortunately, I'll read more of it later. But
yeah, thanks for all the stories you have been linking us on our Facebook page. It's been a pretty interesting reading week this week. We just decided we'd talk about everything.
Definitely. Great. Well, I've got a funny thing to talk about in the feedback session if you want to go ahead and move there now.
All right. Feedback it is.
All right, feedback section. Yeah, where we talk about feedback. First of all, we're getting a lot of people following us on YouTube now. I don't know. It's crazy. We've gotten like 6 in the past week, like almost 1 a day, and that's been happening for a few weeks now. I don't know where this media popularity is coming from, but we're getting listeners too. It's just weird that our YouTube one is the one that's kind of blown up.
Right.
But anyway, yeah, the feedback that we got that was kind of funny was remember that guy a long time ago who was upset about the spoiler alert?
Yes.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, which most of you do, this was pretty recent. We had a Chrono Trigger. We were talking about Chrono Trigger, and at one point we said something, and he says it was you, but I don't remember who it was. He could be wrong. Said something about Chrono Trigger. Do you remember what it was?
Yes. Are you trolling right now? Should I say it again?
Yeah, totally say it.
Chrono dies. Yeah, he's dead. And if you didn't know that, well, you know what? You should have been in the Chrono Trigger book club this summer. You would have found that out.
That's right. I can't believe you ruined it again. We're going to lose more listeners. But anyway, we record this thing thinking nothing of it, right? This is a 12-year-old game.
Yeah, and, well, the topic was about death and rebirth in gaming. So that was a pretty relevant topic for Chrono Trigger.
Right.
A 20-year-old game.
20, that's right, yeah, 20. So this game's super old. So we're thinking it'd be like saying, hey, the princess was actually in another castle.
Right, or saying, like, Rosebud is the name of the sled. Like, it's an old... Once you get past a certain age, like, it's okay to talk about plot lines.
Yeah, and they vary, but 20 seems well within the statute of limitations. Well, outside, I mean. Anyway, well, all of a sudden this guy fires off on our Facebook and says, hey, thanks for spoiling Chrono Trigger. good luck in your future endeavors. I'll be unsubscribing from this post or this feed now.
Right. Like he seemed like he was being cordial about it, but also he was very upset.
Yeah. and we couldn't tell. We were like, is this guy trolling? Anyway, well, after a little bit, once I realized he was correct, I actually sent him a message, and I just said, this was on April 6th. And I just said, hey, I just wanted to apologize for ruining Chrono Trigger for you. We thought that might be a safe thing to talk about, but we clearly misjudged that. Sorry, Casey. Well, no, his name's Casey, and anyone can see it on the Facebook page. And thanks for your run with us. It was good to have you on board. Just as a closing, like kind of, well, thanks for playing. And I don't like anyone being upset unduly if I can avoid it. So I just thought I'd reach out to him. Well, he actually wrote back like 3 hours ago. So just at the beginning of this episode, and just said, thanks for reaching out. I appreciate it. I'm also sorry it happened. And yes, I know it's a Super NES game, but some things are too special to just toss out a spoiler. No warning, like your partner did. I wouldn't want to ruin my favorite game, Earthbound, for anyone. You seem like a good person, and I wish you continued success in your life. So it ended well, I think.
All right.
Yeah, but it was legit, apparently. I couldn't tell. I actually sent that message as sort of a feeler. I was like, I feel bad. And best case scenario, he was right, or he was being honest, and it's an honest apology. Worst case scenario, he's trolling and he thinks this is hilarious. So
I mean, these things are special, people. Like we have an almost irrational love of these old Super Nintendo era games. So I guess I just assumed that if you hadn't played Earthbound or Chrono Trigger by now, you probably weren't going to. Like, I could spoil Final Fantasy VI for you right now, and I feel pretty confident that you're never going to play it because you've had every opportunity.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I think it kind of speaks to the genre. It speaks to the medium that we can form these emotional attachments where we have these irrational responses about things like that, because it kind of makes, it shows you that they're actually touching us and making us feel, very fond of the storylines.
Yeah. That seems extra appropriate because of this Ori and the Blind Forest you and I just finished.
Yes.
You go through it and it's an experience. You're paying for an experience. It's the platforming was awesome, but a good half of that experience was the story, the narrative, and being having a say in how the story folds out. And I guess it's kind of like we've talked about before. It's a little false. You don't really have because if you die, that's not the end of the game. You're not like, well, you paid whatever $10 for this game. Sorry, end of the game because you died. That's your story. No, I mean everyone finishes the same way, but it still feels like it's you. Yeah, interesting. So anyway, that's all the feedback we got. Pretty reasoned response. Turns out he was legit, and still not a listener. So got pretty upset about it.
Cool.
Yeah, that's the end of the feedback session. I guess that's it. So for next episode, I'm gonna try to start putting some gas in the engine on getting some people in here to be interviewed. Someone actually reached out to me this week, and he's a game developer. He's on a small team of people who develop games, and he was asking about being on the show. So maybe we'll throw him on there. Also, we've got quite a few people responding on this post whenever I just solicited people's ideas, guests. So yeah, maybe we can start working on those.
Cool. Well, until next week.
Yeah, we'll see you guys later. Thanks for tuning in.